The following is a special presentation of iRacing on LSRTV, your home for sim racing. Talladega Superspeedway, LSRTV fans, and welcome to our continuing coverage of the Season 15 Superspeedway Cup Series at LSRTV and iRacing. Of three in this round, and after tonight we will mark the 6 drivers who will actually fight for the championship itself in round of 6 I guess of the playoffs that begins after tonight. That'll go to Daytona, back here to Talladega, and one more time to Daytona. Into tonight though, Seth the Birch and Brandon Cruz Vice are your winners, which basically means it's a 12 car field fighting for 4 spots.
Sunny is having a good evening, of course. Right now, we've got Rodney Walford, Chris Bassini, Michael Cozy Jr., Brendan Chaburko are your 4 behind those 2 winners. And also, you've got people like Spencer Preet and Ruben out second on the board. So is Rod Flagg, Harry Tiller as well. All of these guys on the shout really close together in points, so this one could go many different ways. Tonight's result will really be a huge difference. The only guy who I think really safe here is Rodney Walford, actually.
And I think that once you get down to past those names to Coleman and Champion, Brown and Jorgensen, you're talking about more than 20 points out. Might be mathematically plausible for those at 11th and 12th spot, but at that point I really think you have to be looking at a win here tonight from Talladega. Again, a win will get you automatically into the round of 6, no matter who it is. That's how the Birch and Vice have locked themselves in, but there will be at minimum 3 positions in on points. So if you're somebody like Jaburka right now, P6, you are hoping that somebody behind you doesn't get a win, because that then kicks you to the outside and looking in. We'll find out though what that top 6 is going to look like about an hour and a half from now, but we've got 75 laps on the board from the fastest Superspeedway at NASCAR. Let's go trackside and take a look at your LSRTV starting grid. A pole position for this one, the driver autism pole award goes to Rodney Wofford. He'll start up front with a 51.556 to roll off on the front row, and he will be joined by somebody who needs a win. The 88 machine comes in dead last in the playoffs in 14th position. Mark Jorgensen Jr. starting P2. Right now we're going to start tonight at the number 3 position. He's accompanied outside of row 2 by P4 starter Harry Tiller, somebody else who needs to find victory lane. Chris Bassini is plus 22 points on the cut line, and he rolls off in 5th.
So it does. Gary Champion coming in the 6th spot today, with Jason Ullman's a guy we haven't seen around too much this season. He is not in your playoff positions, of course, starting in 7th place. Spencer Preet, who is currently outside Spencer Preet, just outside there in 8th place. Hayden Eiley in 9th place, and Michael Cozy Jr., who is currently points in the playoffs, in 10th place.
As we roll outside of the top 10, still playoff drivers in plenty. The Teteron flag will start tonight in 11th position. Brandon Chaburko, only 3 points to the good, will roll off in 12th. Justin Levine gets tonight's unlucky number 13 starting spot inside of row 7. With Scott Warren outside of him in 14th. Ramon Evans rounds out your top 15.
So he does in 16th place tonight. Travis Brown, who's had some very good races this season. What can he do tonight? Victor Bartlett in 17th place. Ricky Wall, Richard Reagan Jr., Jimmy Coleman in 20th place, and There's only 4 guys left, and one of our winners is there.
Dan Harrington sits above in 21st, and then Brandon Cruz Monsivais already has a win, doesn't need to get any sort of a result out of this one, but he does have to start all the races in the round for that win to be qualifiable towards the round of 6. So he rounds out the qualified times in 22nd, then a couple of revisionals to put a pretty bow on the field here tonight. Dwayne Cooper will start in 23rd position, and Mike Thiel to the outside of that row in 24th. Going to make up your 24 car grid as he sits a shotgun all the way at the back. And again, as it has been for, I would say, the better part of the season, the format remains relatively the same, but a couple of twists and tweaks, if you will, in the last couple of weeks. Tonight's race is 75 laps in distance. We still do have, as we have had all season long, that 100-minute time limit at coming in at 1 hour and 40 minutes. If this race so far gets to that point without completing 75 laps, we will end based on the timer. Stage racing still in effect. Those stage points could be big as we race to the end of the stage at lap number 40 tonight. They do not really help you out if you need a win, but that is a good point. If you're down, like, say, Jimmy Coleman, 22 points, you win a stage and you get 10 points just like that, you get a lot closer to that cut line than you did into tonight, and could make this a little bit more interesting than the championship standings at the moment would seem to imply. The field, though, is going to roll off at turn number 4 as we get set to go racing for the final time in the open round of the playoffs. Both cars on the front row. Ronnie Wofford inside, Mark Jorgensen Jr. outside, as the 88 does so often with the Dale Earnhardt Jr. replica paint schemes tonight, honoring what is going to be his final start in the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series this coming Sunday. It is a lot of red and Exalta on the front row as the pace car is dropped down and in, and we're happy that you're here with us on this Friday night at LSRTV and iRacing Live. American Ethanol, green flag in the air. Let's go for 75 laps.
Huge start by Brandon Chaburko there in the 12 car. Took it 3 wide of that start. Makes a spot up there on the 77 car. Cozy Jr. jumps himself forward a slot. He's got to go somewhere today, and I think he wants that win, Evan, so far, as drivers looking down to the bottom. Travis Brown drops low, and it's going to be Jorgensen Jr., Tiller, Preet, and also Chaburko on the high side.
First time down, that Alabama gang back straightaway outside is where the speed is, and it was Ray Rittenauer who started this race in 3rd, but moved up on the 88, got a push down the back straightaway, goes to the race lead after the first 2.66 miles. He should be able to maintain and lead lap number 1 and get an ever so crucial bonus point to just kind of help him out. He comes into tonight 6 points below the cut line. He's only 5 points below the cut line now.
Certainly is. And a lot of guys are going to have to play a little patient tonight, of course. And they have one backup car, Evan, but they don't want to have to use it. Mark Jorgensen Jr. got caught by that last week, and that cost him a chance to run higher up your field. Of course, he had to retire last week, which meant he didn't get points, so that's hurt his playoff chances, and he needs a win or a great result here today. And wow, Rodney Wofford, he's fairly safe in points positions. He might want to help somebody like Jorgensen Jr. get a win, because if he can do that, that could push out Chaburko, which should be in Wofford's favor.
If somebody like Cozy, who's plus 14, you've got somewhat of a fail-safe. If you're Chris Bassini, plus 22 points on the cut line, you're good, but I still wouldn't recommend DNFing this race, considering there's 24 cars at a lead lap. You could still mathematically get knocked out. But if you're Ronnie Wofford, I think mathematically secure at plus 48. So he kind of in the middle there, where the people behind him at points with an advantage on the cut line have to try to work that points lead. I don't really think the 7 has to hang back at all. In his mind, he's already into the next round and he's looking for a win just to make that official, and he will go to the race lead once more. I'll say back to the race lead because that's where he started, but again, he hasn't let a lap in this thing quite yet, and I don't think he'll lead this one either, because as he slides off of the nose of Jorgensen, the 88's going to be coming topside.
Certainly is, and the 88's coming on very quickly. Tiller giving him a good shove towards the front there. Only 2 of them working up the outside at the moment, and looks like Brown and Preet are going to come with them and try and get in this one moving forwards. Going to be 4v4 here, but the outside struggles to get itself organized, really, Evan. shuffling around a lot. Brown wavers, so does Preet. They drop down again, and it just leaves the two of them. But Preet says, no, I'm going to try and stick with it. And then he changes his mind again and makes commentating very hard.
A lot of early movement here from Talladega. Again, it got a long way to go, and with the change in the race length and the stage length, I think most importantly means that we are able to get to the end of these stages with just one trip down to the pit lane. So you can see these guys maybe a little bit more aggressive than they were in the past. A nice move inside to out by the 12 Ford of Chaburgo, who will end up now up in front of Mark Jorgensen Jr. The 88 not really on the bump with the Fusion in front of him, but we'll get there momentarily. But how about Rodney Wofford finally clear it out in front? He actually ended up leading that last time by 2 because the run kind of stalled out for Jorgensen topside. So the 7, first driver by the start-finish line, 2 laps in a row now, leads the inside at a corner 2.
Does indeed, and it's looking pretty safe up front for Wofford and Rittenhouse second here. Passini back there in third place. Brown on the low side as well. Chaburko's gotten ahead of the 88. Tiller's dropped back, and well, Tiller's going to play a long game here. A lot of these guys who are really borderline or need to get into this cutoff positions, you're going to see him play it safe here, Evan. I don't think they can really afford to push too soon. Wait till after that first stage, see how the field lies, and then start making your moves. There's plenty of time to get involved, and well, at this point, they all want to make sure they have an out, and Chaburko's looking high, wants to get a good dive down here into 1 and 2, get a good run for the backstretch as they go past one of the cars on the bottom side. That's Dwayne Cooper, I believe, as they can start to shuffle up as we come out of 2.
And for those who have, followed along with this series basically all season long, it's no surprise for you to be able to identify who all of these playoff drivers are. But again, if you maybe tuned in for one of your first times, you can see that they have those playoff green windshield banners, as well as the spoilers are green. And just to make it a little bit easier for you, top side on the ticker as well, there is a green highlight to all of their number decals, so you can keep an eye on where the playoff drivers are. They make up more than 50% of the field here tonight. There's 14 of them and 24 cars ready to start in this race. So chances are you're racing around somebody in the playoffs, which kind of puts the non-playoff drivers in an interesting spot. The thing that we always kind of like to tout about these playoffs and the way that this kind of racing works in this NASCAR-style championship is you've got guys out there racing for a championship along with everybody else. Normally, though, those the playoff drivers in NASCAR are in the minority. There tends to be more non-playoff competitors than there are. Not the case here tonight. That will be the case when we get to the round of 6, but at least for the time being, most of the cars in the field are fighting for something.
Yeah, they certainly are. In this sort of stage, you've got a lot of cars here who aren't fighting for something, but in reality, they can be fighting for things. As we see Chaburko here and Wofford side by side, because they're rival sparks are going to fly off the racetrack there as they come out and across the line onto lap 8 here. But a lot of these guys who aren't running for the playoff spots themselves here, Evan, might have teammates that are. Throw that one into the mix. And also some guys who, well, just plain want to win to upset things.
You always want to be the spoiler. We have yet to see one in these playoffs. Seth the Virgin winner 2 weeks back, or Brandon Cruz Montsevice winner 1 week ago. 3 Wando up front with one of those drivers, the 18 Gary champion, 24 points below the cut line. Not a good move. He goes out to the third line, and unless he wasn't liking how things were looking up front and actually wanted to drop to the back, he's going to go to the negatives early on in this one. Should be able to slot line behind Preet. He'll end up at about 10th or 11th if he can get down. No, he'll stay topside, so that almost would imply that he wants to get back. He's somebody that basically needs a win or a lot of stage points. I'm talking at least a top 5, if not a top 3 at the end of the stage, and a top 5 finish in the race if you want to dig out of a hole that's about 20-plus points.
Yeah, and you really have to get some very good positions, and some guys have to have some terrible luck for that to go your way here as Chaburko gets shoved from the 88 Junior. Chaburko down to low side will take that lead early on and leave 3 cars up on the outside. 72, 69 and 88 up there. That's Tiller, Preet and Junior. And well, there's a lot of junior cars around in this field, a lot of red cars out there, Evan. As, of course, we've got 4 up front, but one of those is a Ford and it's not the same color scheme. But 3 of those Exalta red junior Chevrolets up there doing a great job in representing a legend in the sport.
There's a lot of red up front, and you saw the 12 machine work his way up. Chaburko was it up here at the start. Oh, there's issues at a 2. It's Rittenhour, really the only non-red car top 5. I don't know if he was the one who got sideways or if the car topside on him did. I think he might have pushed up a little bit, got into the door of Jorgensen, and I was sure he was headed to the inside fence. Good job for him to hang on, but I talked about that bonus point that he secured after leading the first lap. -5 on the cut line. This is really going to hurt him now because he's basically well off of the lead pack outside of the top 20. That's not going to cut it.
No, it's certainly not going to help him at all. He's in a very bad spot. Lost the draft there, so that'll cost him a lot. But up front now, Junior's mounting a charge. He's got Tiller and Preet behind him. Monster Vice coming forwards with Brown as Chaburko is going to try and control the outside lane. May not work for him. I mean, see if they go and split this decision. He's going to go up high a little bit. See if he pulls Junior down with him. I think he might do. They're both going to come down. No, Junior decides to stay high and he's going to go for an attempted pass here on Chaburko. Can the rest of them get behind him and give him a good enough push as Tiller's going up high to come down here off 4, get a good run here on the 88 and give him a push. Works textbook, and look at that run. They're going to get through the tri-oval.
Tiller's going to make sure that the 88 is the first one across the line. I almost thought there that what Jorgensen was trying to do was make a quick move to the inside and undercut the 12. As you see, he slides down in front of him now as the race leader because he made a very aggressive dive down low. The 12 did the same, but I think when Jorgensen saw that, he wanted to stay high. I don't think he had any intentions of staying behind the snap-on forward again. Mark Jorgensen Jr., 39 points back. You win the stage, you're 29 points back. There's only 24 cars at a racetrack. He needs to win this race, and that could explain why he's being a little bit more aggressive and, you know, kind of tying back in with the point I was making earlier, Rachel, about how the majority of the field is in the playoffs. I would almost think that would make this race more calm early because you mentioned it as well. You don't want to use that crook repair early on. There's more drivers here that aren't going to make that move in the front row. There you go. Jorgensen tried to block high. Chaburko crossed him up, and clearly these two do not agree with that synopsis as we go 3 wide for the race leader with Tiller up top.
And it's about to be 4 wide. Look up front, a lap car about to get involved in this one. That's Jason Altman's, I think, actually. There it is, Altman's, who's already going to go a lap down here at this stage as Tiller goes to the point with Preet being successful off this run here as things will hook up. Surprised the Altman's going a lap down this soon, actually, but Tiller, Preet going to go for the lead himself right now. Spencer Preet, the 72 car, 12, Chaburko, ducking, diving, weaving, contact!
Up into
flipping race cars.
Caution flag is out. It's Chaburko and Levine.
Oh my gosh, Evan, that was one we could see coming as Preet closed the door and Chaburko tried to come up and 14 was there and the replay will show it. Big air for Brandon Chaburko, and that's his backup car going to be running out the trailer right now, and he's got his last chance here to make the playoffs.
Came into tonight, you know, at a little bit of a tricky spot, only 3 points above the cut line, but would rather race for the lead, I guess, than make the next round of the playoffs because we saw those aggressive moves inside and out, and not that a 14 could have done there. Justin Levine's just rounded up top that third lane. The 12 comes across his nose, and both of those cars basically destroyed. Impressed that it ended at just really those 2 cars. I was expecting that one to be a lot bigger. Oftentimes you end up at the outside wall there, you bounce back down in front of traffic, but now Chaburko goes from being above the cut line and just having to run top 10 and to be able to just kind of tiptoe through to the next round to now finding himself at the back, if not falling off of the lead lap, depending on what the damage is going to be on that car, and now it's a completely different scenario for him.
Really is, Sarah. As everyone can come onto pit road here, lap 14. So let me do some quick math in my head. They are not going to make the end of the stage, so we're going to have to see at least 1 green flag stop or possibly another caution will get us to the end of this one. Lap 40, of course, cut off. So maybe actually with some fuel saving, they might. No, they're not going to make it. They'll be a lap or 2 short, I think, with fuel saving, but we'll see who gets off pit road first, and will it be? No, Spencer Preet comes off with Tiller second, Junior and Wofford. Although I am seeing here, Evan, though, that Junior is running like we've not seen him race in a long time. Last season, Jorgensen Jr. was an absolute machine. This season, he's been a little subdued. And honestly, this race, I'm starting to see the old Jorgensen Jr. return.
If there's any race that you got to pick it up and get back at it, this is the one to do it. Mark Jorgensen Jr., the 14-time winner. The Superspeedway Cup Series third most to only Brandon Chaburko's second all-time with 21, and Ronnie Wofford most all-time with 22 trips to victory lane up until this point in the season. The guys up front, two-tire was the call with the 72 of Preet. He leads off for the pit lane, but trails to Rod Flag at the moment. The 10 machine was down pit road, but he did not find the pit stall. So Rod Flag is, I would expect, to have to just come back down and top it off. It's not what he wanted. He came into tonight 10 points below the cut line. Needed a good outing if he was to make the top 6. Day out, I think you're going to be in a worse position because if you don't get a quick yellow, you're pitting by yourself. Basically, you're off the lead lap guaranteed, as opposed to if you just kind of, take one for the team now, you miss the pit lane, but come down, try it again, and you drop back to the 20s, but at least you'll still be on the lead lap. But we're right on that teeter-totter edge of being able to make this work on the strategy on fuel. Maybe if you top off right before we go back green, you could make it. If we get a yellow, I would think that obviously coming down and topping off would help, but if we get a yellow, do you come down top off to know you could make it, or do you think that just that yellow alone will allow you to save enough fuel while running around the Superspeedway at caution speed to be able to make it? Again, we're only looking for lap 40 in the race to the end of stage number 1. Bonus points are on the line. 10 for first, all the way down through 1 for P10. As we see, Rod Flag does have to come down to the pit lane like expected.
So he does, of course, and well, we'll get this one rolling back again, and well, things got a little bit warm to the end of that stage there, or that, I should say this run, I should say, not stage yet, but things got a little bit hectic, Evan, and we do say that cautions breed cautions. Are we going to see a second one fairly quickly? That caution, whilst involving 2 drivers, one of whom was definitely in the runnings for the playoff, and this might actually hurt a lot. Are we going to see a second one? Because that was fairly tame. We only involved 2 cars. Could this be a recipe for something bigger that could hurt a lot of guys?
Well, the interesting thing that we see when we get later in these seasons is the car count does trickle down a little bit by maybe 4 or 5 cars per night. That's why I was making it out that 14 of the 14 cars here this evening are playoff drivers. Those who really aren't fighting for anything might not be here for these last couple of weeks, and I think that would be a trend that we see as well when we transition to the round of 6. A couple of these guys, once they're not fighting for the big piece of hardware, might head home, so that little bit of added real estate from having about 6 or so less cars than what we're used to seeing here on Fridays makes the likelihood of a yellow a little bit less. There's just tends to be more space on a racetrack. That leads to more separation, and that leads to less race cars hitting one another. Now, if you're going to be throwing blocks high and low like we saw both Jorgensen and Chaburko do it earlier, I can't promise you anything, but this race could have a green flag nature to it if these guys will allow it. I do think, though, once we get to the end of the stage, we get to that final run to the end for those final 35 laps, 1 pit stop gets you that way in between, the run from lap 40 to 75. Once we're done pit stops, those guys who need wins, Miller, Coleman, Champion, Brown, Jorgensen, it's going to get wild, but I think that they have to conserve so they have a race car at the end to play with.
Yeah, they certainly do, and conservation's always a factor. It's something we often don't see these guys really think about earlier in the season, but once you get to this point, they have to really get creative and really start to play a different game when we see them on the racetrack, and it has changed things. We had a couple of races this playoff so far, Evan, because you've been off playing with monster trucks, but a couple of ones this season that have been incredibly careful. We had a race last week at Daytona where we had 1 caution. 1 caution. Fastest yet on record, I believe, if Cisco can confirm that one for us, but the shortest race ever we've actually seen. Went to the end on laps, of course, and it was over before we could even blink. It was an incredible race. Yep, Cisco's saying, sure, yes, so we're confirming that last week was the fastest race they've had this season with 1 caution only beyond our, of course, end of stage caution, but it was a very, very, very clean race.
I'll believe this statistic. It makes sense with a little bit of the shorter race calendar that we've been seeing this season as well. The lights are still on, though, on top of the pace car, so we'll take a quick opportunity to step aside. We'll keep it LSRTV non-stop so you don't miss a moment of the action. And when we come back, hopefully the pace car is going to be getting out of the way soon, and we will be getting this race back underway. You're watching LSRTV's continuing coverage of the Superspeedway Cup Series on iRacing Live.
Ryan Priest. I'm driving the number 20 JGR Toyota Xfinity car this weekend. Really great opportunity here at New Hampshire at my home track. Over the past 2 weeks, I've been on iRacing, practicing a little bit here and there with the modified and the NASCAR Xfinity car, so it's been a lot of fun. It's been a great tool for me to kind of get used to that stock car body again and be prepared for the race today. Well, yeah, it's a mile long, so the draft kind of plays into effect here with the modifieds, punches a big hole in the air, and we run restrictor plates. So it makes a big difference. Just really fast, and it's our Daytona. So that's what's great about it, and we have a fast car for tomorrow. I think the biggest thing is they're heavier cars. The tire's a lot different, and the way you go about setting them up is a lot different. They use all 4 tires more than a modified, where we typically drive off the right rear, you know, so. Well, actually, it's funny. I raced NASCAR race in 2003 before iRacing came about. And then when iRacing came about, my friend Kevin Iannarelli, who works at iRacing, kind of told me, hey man, you need to switch over to this. And when I did, I was like, oh my God, this is like real life. So I started using it as a tool of mine to really prepare for modified races, whether it was Stafford or Thompson or Loudon, Bristol. And then obviously the Xfinity Series last year, going to road courses, trying to get laps, and use it as a tool that can get me as prepared as I could be without actually doing it. So it's been great.
Welcome back live to the Talladega Superspeedway. Lights are finally out on top of the iRacing.com pace car. And this race is going to get back underway. A couple of drivers dropping out of this thing under the yellow, working on getting themselves back on track. Michael Cozy Jr., Victor Bartlett, Brandon Chaburko, and Spencer Pre. Affected by that, those are basically all drivers who are fighting from below the cut line to get into the Championship 6. We'll talk about that more when they do get back onto the racetrack, but a pace car is off and away, and we get set to go back raid. We were talking about fuel strategy to the end of the stage at lap number 40. We come and take the green flag. 18 laps complete, 22 to go. Was that enough extra pacing to get some of these drivers over the hump and to the end of this thing? But the outside, the place to be on the restart race. We don't typically see the outside be the place to be. The bottom tends to be where you get that big run in 1 and 2, but Tiller used the top side to go to the lead.
Advantage, of course, but, well, entirely depends.
Jorgensen to push him. These two have been hooked up, though, for the better part of this race. Earlier on, it was Tiller on the back bump of the 88 machine. This time around, vice versa, and the inside line. And both of those drivers occupy at the moment. It holds about a 2-car length advantage as they come by the start-finish line. Looking back to 3rd, 4th, and so far, it's Ronnie Wofford maintaining 30, leads the outside charge at the moment. We have 19 cars scored on the lead lap at the moment. Back down the back straightaway, it looks like most drivers flocking to the bottom.
Certainly do, of course, and the bottom's obviously the place everyone wants to always be. It's the shortest way around the racetrack. It's the fastest, simplest. No need to worry about your line positioning because you've got a yellow one below you to stay on. Nice and easy.
The 18 to Gary Champion has some sort of an issue. He was running on the inside row, 3rd in line, and his Monster Energy Chevy just dropped out of the apron, and he's wrecking now. At turn number 4, I don't know if he lost a screen or something. That car had a big wiggle. He got down and off and away. You saw him drop down, and that car is barrel rolling on the concrete on the inside of 3 and 4, and I think Gary Champion might have lost the pedals, might have lost the wheel, or might have lost a screen, but he just basically dove that car off to the left as to not affect anybody else. It's going to be a single car incident, no caution, and we're going to stay green. The battle for the race lead is on through all of this. Harry Tiller trying to block, got a big shot from Wofford into the back end, and now Tiller, with not a lot of speed on the inside, is going to be under fire as the 7 comes flying out of turn 4.
Yeah, Tiller's got to be careful. That's the sort of thing that's going to give him real trouble here. Is up into do the tri-oval actually right now and getting themselves in line. Harry Tiller, Mark Johnson Jr. back there behind Tiller. Great car to have pushing you as 76 up Scott Warren there, of course, and Ramon Evans up here along with Bassini. So a strong top 6 at the moment. 46 car there, Richard Reagan Jr. getting up and involved. So Tiller, kind of the victim at the moment, is the odd duck out. Has to play it careful.
And that 76 is kind of in no man's land at the moment in 4th. There's nobody to his inside, but he continues to want to work topside behind the 7 to field. Though if Wofford drops in line, he would want to as well. They're going to go high around lap traffic. That's the number 12 machine of Brandon Chaburko. 2 laps down, will now go 3 laps down after he was involved in or was the caution in the front straightaway. The only yellow we've seen so far tonight. And Adewale was trying to get that race car fixed to back out of the racetrack. Lost connection to the sim and has been able to get back in. He is a couple of laps down as they run at the moment, and he'll kind of blend his way into the lead pack here. So good news for him as he will be the first driver 3 laps down. The bad news is he's the only driver 3 laps down.
Yeah, it's not going to help him, but at the same time, it might actually help him as well. But a lot of guys up front who have multiple laps up. Chaburko in a very bad position now for where he needs to be, especially with the time left in this race, and depending on how many cautions they get. Up towards the front, though, it's spilling out a little more differently right now. Johnson Jr. up front, of course. 77 about to go down a lap again. Already one down here as up comes one of the drivers right now. I can't quite tell who that one is. I'm going to guess it's Ramon Evans up to the high side. And Livery's decided to go and blank out for a moment as Evans there up top. Going to pull forwards in front of Tiller. Will they get a good run here down the backstretch?
You're going to try to make a fair play here at the 88 and the 7 machine. Bound to back straightaway past halfway in this opening stage. 26 down, 16 laps to go. This time by in the race to the end of stage number 1. See if that means at all that we'll be able to get to the end of the stage without pitting. Again, a lot of questions were in the air at the time of the yellow, but a long trip. A couple of times around Talladega may mean that some folks towards the back, if they were saving or if they maybe topped off, be able to go all the way straight through to lap 40. But now, unlike what we saw right off of the restart where everybody flocked to the inside, you had a couple up high but really no solid line. Now there's an outside lane there amongst the top. It looks like 8 drivers right now. 4 of them are on the inside and 4 of them are on the outside. So the outside has a legitimate presence there. That's good for Evans because he's basically staying right with the 88.
Certainly is, and Evans going to be involved in this one. Going to try and gum up the works a little bit for these playoff drivers. Get himself into a position here where he could really cause some trouble. 88 and the 7 though. Potent combination out front with Rager Jr. on the bottom doing a good job here. Things breaking away a bit at the front as some drivers perhaps getting a little nervous.
When you see in this group, they got the 46, as you mentioned, Reagan, also somebody who's trying to play spoiler in this, Scott Warren, into number 76 machine up in the mix as well. So we've really seen a lot of shuffling up from the start of this race, but the 2 constants have been Jorgensen and Wofford. They started inside of the top 3, and they run right now inside of the top 3, and they've been working together for much of it all, but very different stories between the 2 of them. As we've said, Wofford 48 points to the good. He is in to the round of 6, mathematically speaking. Jorgensen 39 points the wrong direction. If you combine those 2 statistics together, these drivers are separated by 87 points after just 2 races in the open round of this playoff. So maybe the 7 trying to help a buddy out, get that 88 to victory lane and get him into the round of 6.
He's going to try, and I think that's what he really wants to get in this race. And well, it's possible. Like I said, we've seen him racing better than he has most of this season as Bassini goes up the track a little bit back there, off 2. Evans holding on tight here as Tiller going to make a run on the outside with the 76 of Warren. Not going to be enough horsepower behind those 2, though, to make something happen here. Junior is shoving hard here. These guys working very hard to keep this one consistent. They may drop down now. We'll see. I think they're both going to go down. Single flatted out for most of your top 10.
And we see this almost when you're starting to kind of regroup and get set to make a charge to the end of their pit stops. I don't think we're really at either of those. I think The outside contact, 46 in the 7. It was just the slightest bit of contact as Reagan got up and he grazed the 7 in the bumper. Now 3-1, it's not going to work. And the 1 car going to go around hard into the outside wall is Chris Piscini. That car is torn up. No caution yet as the 2 machine also got damage, and now the yellow flag going to fly.
Yeah, that everyone stayed in a straight line, which is why the automatic system didn't pull a caution there as the 3 wide descended on the replay for you there. Piscini gets tipped by the 2. Up he goes, hit by, I should say, Jason Altmans, and caused a big problem. But everyone stayed straight, Evan, so that was a race control. Actually, had to throw that one for the event, and well, this will get him to the end once we get out of caution.
And it all started with that contact. Reagan went bottom to top, and he just clipped the 7 in the right rear quarter panel when he did that move, so it got Watford out of shape. The 2 machine checks up, and then the 1 machine's up top, and in all fairness, yes, there's a lane on the inside of Ricky Wall. There's a space for a race car to go, but it really wasn't a lane. And then Chaburko goes down there. I think it scared the 2. He moved up, and I'm not even sure the 1 was aware that there were 2 cars on the inside, and that's how you end up with the 2 machine essentially turning the 1 up on the outside of the racetrack wall, getting in to the 1 machine of Piscini. Those cars up into the fence, and I think it was Altman's came in and just pile drove 1 of those cars in the bumper. And at that point, as you said, even though nobody would round and the yellow flag did not automatically come out from within the sim, as it has always been with the Superspeedway Cup Series, race control can throw a yellow for an incident that includes 3 or more cars. This one fits the criteria. Caution flag out at lap number 27. But we're going to round around to the entry of pit road. Still with a little bit of question of fuel up in the air. Do you stay out and save, or do you want to come down and get a splash to the end? Remote Evans pitches the nose in, and he's got a lot of people following all the way through to Chaburko, who's the first driver to stay out.
I think it's a wise choice, but Chaburko obviously staying out because he wants to get a lap back, a wave around there. He'll get another one potentially, but yeah, I think you could have made it on fuel if you stayed, but I think these guys just want to make sure, because this means they maybe not have to pit at the competition caution, get some track position there. So playing the old gambling card. Right now it's early enough days that you can really afford to come in, get some tyres, get some fuel, get back out there and just see what happens. This race has got a bit of a grisly feel to things.
Winning the race off at the pit lane is the 83 Remote Evans. He actually went with 2 tires, which surprised me. I thought somebody would have kind of tried to pull the trigger and go with just a splash. And we did see a little bit of it, but at least up front, not the immediate go-to call. And Remote Evans is not going to be up front, despite the fact that he was first off for the pit lane. Jorgensen in front of him, Coleman, Flag, Monsivice, and Cooper. So right now, 6 drivers staying out. And they could very well just be looking for a single bonus point to try to help him out. They then drop back down to the pit lane. Same similar situation we saw with Rod Flag earlier, although that one was not intentional as he accidentally missed a stall down on pit road. But we'll find out. P6 is doable. That's still in the points. I think, though, if you're, the guy's double-digit points back, that it's a good call to try to stretch this thing out. You had at least what I thought was a normally long yellow flag cycle the first time around, and if we get that here again for a handful of laps, then you're going to be in a spot where you've probably been able to save 4 or 5 laps just on yellows alone, and that might just tweak you through to lap 40. Keep it in mind, you don't just have to get to lap 40, Rachel. You do need a little bit extra fuel to then pace back to pit road and fuel back up. So got to keep that in mind, too. You got to add a little bit on top of just trying to get to the end of the stage.
Yeah, you do, and that's just a matter of racing, really. You got to make sure you have the the right amount of gas in it. Play it safe, because safe is always better than not enough.
We'll see if the call by those top 6 is really a strategy call, or if they're just waiting for something to cycle through. Pit lane open again this time. Dwayne Cooper stays out. Monsivice, Flag, Coleman, Jorgensen all decide to stay out. So at the end of the day, I like the call. Jorgensen was the first driver in and out of the pit lane because he decided to go with just that splash to go that I was talking about. So you got Remote Evans, first driver with fresh tires. He took 2 left sides. A restart outside of row 3, P6. Jorgensen, the first driver with fuel, no doubt he'll be able to make it to the end unless you really botched that math call on how much fuel you're going to be taking on pit road. But I would have to predict that if the guys up in the top 4 right now are thinking that they can stretch it, then literally any minuscule amount that Jorgensen would have added on pit lane should be enough to guarantee himself a spot rolling forward and being able to make it to the end of this stage. But this is kind of where things buckle up. Stage racing has been important all season, Rachel. We've been talking about it. We've been keeping track of the stage winners. Chris Pacini, I believe, has won the past 2 stages in a row at Daytona a week ago and then right here at Talladega the week prior. So both stage wins for him in the playoffs gone his direction, but they are really critical now. It was kind of tough in the regular season to see who was, accumulating stage points. We would give a shout out to the driver who won the stage, and that's all fine and dandy. But again, 10 points, winning the stage could be huge. You're down 22. All of a sudden, you're down 12. If you're down 24, you're only down 14. So I think this is the most critical stage points have been all season, and this might be the craziest sprint to the end of a stage we'll see all year.
Yeah, I think it could be, because those points are going to be vital for some of these guys. 1 or 2 points could make all the difference when it comes to the end of this one in terms of positioning with how close a lot of our drivers are in the playoff points. So, yeah, let's expect this one to be quite interesting. Chaburko 2 laps down now, probably going to get another one back at the stage. He'll be 1 lap down there. We get another caution. He's back on the lead lap. He can contend again. So that's one to keep a real close eye on. Cozy Jr. as well, down 1 lap. He's in the playoffs. Can he stay there?
19 drivers total on the lead lap. We mentioned a couple of drivers had issues and lost connection to the sim. Some of them have been back, some of them have not. Gary Champion has not been able to reconnect to the service. It's going to be a tough break for him because he was already kind of looking at a Hail Mary, 24 points below the cut line. His night looks like it'll end in 23rd spot. Victor Bartlett is down 24th position. Chaburko's been able to get a couple of laps back. He's only -2. Michael Cozy Jr. is -1 lap. Everybody else from Mike Thiel on up to Dwayne Cooper scored on the lead lap. So that's just kind of an update on some of the drivers that have had some issues. Again, there's still folks back there that need wins. Cozy, coming into this plus 14 spots in the championship, had that disconnection issue really hurting him. So with Chaburko and P6 Rachel dropping out, and I think by the end of this race they'll get back to the lead lap. Live points probably have both of these guys out. You got the guy 6th outside of the top 20. The guy that came in tonight 5th in the points outside of the top 20. It's a wide open door for somebody like a Spencer Preet, but he's also had issues. He's fallen back to 17th. So then you fall to Ray Rittenauer. It's just kind of mid-pack at the moment. So you got to take advantage of the misfortunes the guys up in front of you in the points are having. And right now, I really don't see anybody doing that.
No, me neither. And right now it's going to be a really tricky one to the end of this. And like I say, 8 laps or so now to our competition caution. So these guys are going to have to make sure they have something left for this. This could be a crazy run to the end. Will this be across the line under yellow or under green? We'll have to find out. But under this race is not going to be quiet, I don't think.
The lights have gone out on top of that pace car, so we will go green this next time around. 8 laps to be left in the race down to the end of stage 1. We'll also cross over the midway point in this race, just a handful of laps before we get to the end of the stage. So we'll take an opportunity when the stage does break to take a look at our iRacing midway race break, and we will focus on the action from this point on to the end of the stage. Racking them and stacking them again. Points available to the top 10. Row 1 going to be Dwayne Cooper and Brandon Cruz Monsivice. Row 2, Rod Flag, Jimmy Coleman. Row 3, Mike Jorgensen Jr. and Harry Tiller. Row 4, Ramona Evans and Scott Warren. And row 5, Dan Harrington and pole sitter Rodney Wofford are those drivers who are currently sitting in points paying positions. Pace car to drop down. Remember, on the drop of the first green flag, things happened like we suspected. Inside was the better place to be, but the car outside of the front row took the lead down the back straight away. Last restart, car on the outside of the front row just took the race lead right away. So watch Monsivice. Arguably, he might be in the best spot here as we come 2 by 2. Rod Flag all over the back bumper of the double of Dwayne Cooper. It warranted him a brake check. You saw that one as they were coming to the pit lane entry. Now let's go at it. Green flag back in the air. 8 to go in stage 1.
That was real hectic as they came past the pit entrance. A lot of cars at the bottom line having to shoot out of line to avoid contact there, but Brake checking people on the run to the green flag is not a very good decision. Not looked too kindly upon by race control, but once Vice on the top side, lagging back a little bit here as I think it's a bit of a bent up bumper on a 78 car up there with Jimmy Coleman. That could slow him down as Flag turns him.
Dwayne Cooper is going to get turned by Rod Flag. He's going to be the only car to go around, so there shouldn't be a yellow. And those were the two drivers that were having the disagreement on the restart in this. Flag was all over the back of the 00, and this was a very similar move to what we saw at Chaburco going into 3. Yes, there was a lane there, but it really wasn't a lane, and Rod Flag wanted to force the issue. He needed a good points night coming into tonight. I said some guys aren't taking advantage of the misfortunes of those final couple of transfer spots, and that's one way to do it. As you take a second look at the replay, Flag got into the left rear quarter panel, but did not get off of the left rear quarter panel because he was getting pushed straight through by the 88 behind him.
Yeah, Junior did not let off, and that really pushed the 10 into that confrontation. Didn't want to be there, but had nowhere he could go as Coleman tried to kind of close the door there, but unfortunate, not Coleman, sorry, I should say. That was Dwayne Cooper tried to close that door down. But Junior and Flag to the sharp end here. Going to get around Monster Vice potentially, but Monster Vice comes back with a good run from the bottom side. More cars there. Going to keep things moving forwards. Outside looks strong though. You've got Altmans, Levine, Wofford, Tiller and Flag. That's a very strong line. In fact, Chaburk up there as well as Travis Brown. So let's expect this outside line will do something here if they can hook up.
Side by side they go. It really doesn't look like there's much of an advantage to the inside or the out. In fact, you can see the outside is pretty strong. Not necessarily the best thing, interestingly enough, for the folks up on the outside of the racetrack to be experiencing. Last time I kind of explicitly noted, hey, we got 4 inside, 4 outside, they're about even. The outside eventually fell apart and we single filed out completely. The outside, yes, you can stay up there just by strength and numbers alone, but they really strive on a momentum. When somebody goes bottom to top, gets a big run, and you get 2-3 cars all at once. If you are there up top the whole time, you kind of get stuck. And I think that 88 machine trying to work both lanes, helping Rod Flag out, sees the 10 stick those to the outside, and now goes back down to the bottom. I was thinking Rod Flag was trying to kind of snooker that 88 up a little bit more and then try to cross him over. It didn't happen, but I think that's what the plan was.
Looks that way as things going to get a little bit more messy back at the rear end of your top 10, but everyone's staying fairly 2 by 2 up towards the sharp end. Junior going to control the lines here as Flag gets a run. Junior controls it nicely, completely checks their momentum as they head into turn number 3 here on lap 36. And will we go green to the end of this stage? Well, we're in that bracket now where a caution here will end us under yellow flag conditions in the stage, so Junior really wants to be out there. Stage points aren't going to help him get into the playoffs, but he just needs to stay out front the entire race.
If he wins on the 82 machine, what a save, Dan Harrington. But ushered out a line, and he's just going to drop to the back here. That takes him out of the top 10, and that moves Travis Brown and Chris Bassini from outside of the top 10 to into the top 10 as he drops back. But if Jorgensen were to win this stage, this time by 3 laps to go, as we take a second look at the contact there with Harrington, it was dropped back now and will lose about 16 positions or so. But up front, if Jorgensen wins this stage, he goes from 39 points below the cut line to 29 points below the cut line. He's still 5 drivers short in this race to be able to make that up. That's assuming that the guy he'd be chasing would be the one that lost. And now we got a lot of contact, and there goes Jorgensen. A lot of playoff drivers as the big one strikes.
Certainly does. Oh my gosh. And one of those cars who's destroyed is Brandon Chaburco too. No, his car's perfect. He somehow weaseled through this one after a trip across the grass. Lightning reflex, he dove to the infield to dodge all of that happening, and what an impressive save by him there. Slowing down as everyone jumps to the front stretch. Evan, what happened?
It almost is just what we saw in the last one. We talked about how, Rod Flag got into the left rear quarter panel of the 00 machine and kind of got pushed through him to the 88 by the 88 machine. And again, there's a lane. Yes, there's speaking, if you got a tape measure, there's room for a race car there, but and I understand, you got to get points and you got to do what you got to do. And at the end of the day, though, we were only halfway through this race, and that's the second car that went off of the nose of Rod Flag. And again, there's hard racing. If there's a spot, you got to go for it. That's a racer's mentality, but you're also responsible for your nose. And that's the second time somebody went off of the nose of Rod Flag. This time, though, it took out half the field.
Certainly is, and wow, this has jumped up a lot of race cars. A lot of guys now who only have one car left, so that's going to make this one very interesting to the end. Everyone has to be super careful. A lot of these guys now have jumped race cars are all ones who are fighting to get into the playoffs, including Jorgensen Jr., who has to stay clean now.
Just kind of waiting out for what race control is going to tell us at the end of the stage. We've seen sometimes this season, this yellow is going to go through lap 40. Sometimes, depending on when the yellow comes out, we will just wait till lap 40 to lock down the top 10 and say those are the guys who walk away with the stage points. Other times, though, we'll say, okay, since this is the yellow, even though it's 2 laps shy, we're going to count the stage points at this moment. I think the big difference in what's going to happen, because if you're waiting till lap 40, you don't want to pit, you want to get the bonus points. If we're going to give out the points now, then everybody wants to pit, because you might be able to get to the end of the race from this point on just one more pit stop. So just kind of keeping our ears on race control channel and haven't heard anything. So I would suggest, or I guess take that to be that this time by still 1 lap left to go in the stage, and no points have been handed out yet. Can't promise you for sure, but that's what I'm thinking. And if Reagan wants to get the stage points, stay out and do so. He's not a playoff driver, so I would almost think he doesn't really care about the stage points. Come in, get fuel, be on the advantage for the second half of this race at the cost of giving up those 10 points, which really don't mean a whole lot to you. Now, different story for, Watford in second. He's pretty good on points, taking the lock this, say not the likes of Piscini. I'm sure Piscini wants those stage points, so it's different per person, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it certainly is, and wow, this will shake things up a lot. Richard Reagan Jr. looking like he'll get the stage win of this one, so that's a nice one for him, as Chaburko is going to probably get a wave round off this one, which would be nice for him. But this is the stage end caution, I'm guessing, with the way things are going to play out. So he still needs one more, which he might get with the way this is going. But I've got to say, huge avoidance there by Chaburko. He dodged a massive bullet with this one. I thought he was done, and he somehow managed to wiggle through it.
I feel like that's every week. You think the car's done, and the stat sheet says, he's only got 1 quick repair, and somehow at the end of it all, that car is almost always still on track from the end of this. And a couple of drivers dropping off to the pit lane, talking about how the 88 machine at Jorgensen really could have used a lot of bonus points. He is outside of the top 10, so no need for him to try to stay out and hang on and win a stage. So he'll come down to the pit lane and get things topped off on fuel and such. And again, assuming that we do have to complete lap 40 before Reagan is going to be given his stage points, I'm not sure if that's going to be with 1 to go, because if it is, you can't pit. Pit road will be closed at that point, and then basically you have, maybe 7 laps of fuel left in the car, so you're either going to have to hope on an early yellow, or we're going to have a lot of drivers coming down pit road by themselves. So a lot of this is, I think, more so on teams as opposed to the spotter letting you know what's happening. I think that decision has its pros and cons, but whichever one you decide to take, you want to be with people. So I bet you there's a lot of teammates and buddies on the radio right now chatting, saying, what are we going to do?
Oh, absolutely, and this is going to shake up strategy for a lot of these guys. They need to make sure they're in a position now where they can work this one to the end, and it has changed it for a lot of these front runners because of the position they're in now. A lot of them down a lap because of this, so that's going to, of course, change a lot too. They restart the back of the field, and they need a caution to get back on the lead lap, so they have to race super careful. So you've got a lot of guys like Mike Thiel, Dan Harrington, Jimmy Coleman, who are out towards the front of this one, and the race might take a different tempo.
The way they run now is Reagan 1, Watford 2, Rittenauer 3, Piscini 4, Preet 5, with Thiel 6, Harrington 7, Coleman 8, Warren 9, and Dwayne Cooper P10. That should be the stage results as the field rounds at a quarter to 4. A couple of championship drivers in there getting some. Piscini is really going to appreciate that. He was fairly comfortable into tonight, but the extra 7 bonus points I'm sure he will take without complaint. I think this is really big, though, for Spencer Preet. 6 bonus points after coming into tonight, 3 points below the cut line. And I believe because Brandon Chaburko doesn't get any points in this now, Rachel, Burko is 2 points out, and Preet is up 2 on that final transfer spot, so that's big.
Oh, it's absolutely huge, really, for this one. So you got to be very careful with how this one gets involved, because they need to be super, super cautious to have a car left at the end. Because one big problem at these super speedways can affect people so far back in the field that it's going to be a gamble for a lot of these guys to make it to the end.
So this time by, lights on top of the pace car will stay on. Running order going to maintain as it is. So let's take this opportunity now to look top to bottom at your iRacing Midway Race Break, brought to you by iRacing, the leading online racing simulation developed from the beginning as a centralized racing and competition service. iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on virtual tracks all around the world. And in the fast-paced world of esports, iRacing is your one-stop shop for online racing with officially sanctioned series by the likes of NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, Global Rallycross, and more. At lap number 41 of 75, it's Richard Regan Jr. who takes the 10 points, and he leads at the end of stage number 1. Posted Rodney Watford runs in second position. Ray Rittenauer the second is in third. That's exactly where he started. Chris Bassini up 1 in P4. Spencer Preet runs in 5th position again. Now he occupies the final transfer spot in the points. Mike Thiel, biggest mover tonight, plus 18 to run in P6. Dan Harrington is 7th, with Jimmy Coleman at 8th. Scott Orr in 9th, and Mark Jorgensen Jr. in 10th.
11th place tonight will be, at the moment, Brad Cruz Vice with Hayden Everly in 12th place, Jason Altman's Rod Flagg, Michael Cozy Jr. and Dwayne Cooper last car on the lead lap in 16th place. Behind them, cars involved in the accidents: Harry Tiller, Rick Wall, Brandon Jaberko, Ramon Evans, Justin Levine, Travis Brown, Gary Champion, and Victor Bartlett, with the last 3 being off the track.
Look top to bottom at your iRacing Midway Race Break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, visit iRacing.com to sign up today. For a limited time, if you visit iRacing.com/World of Outlaws, you can take advantage of some exclusive promo codes and get yourself on iRacing with a 1-year membership for over half off, 50% off rather. And you could also, if you just want to give it a try for 3 months, that'll cost you less than $5. That's iRacing.com/World of Outlaws. And I should also note that those aren't the only promo codes up for grabs as you see these drivers come down to the pit lane as the stage has been completed. The Black Friday sale has already started for iRacing, and I believe it's just a straight 50% off every single level of new membership that you want to give a try. But either way, if you want to go for the World of Outlaws promo or the Black Friday promo, information on all of that is always on iRacing.com. So drivers did come down to the pit lane, and I think this tied into what I was kind of thinking out loud about earlier, Rachel. Lights went out on top of the pace car, so pitting at 1 to go, I believe, means some of those drivers technically pitted on a closed pit. Now, I believe that penalty would just be an EOL. Scott Warren had one, and it's been cleared by race control. So I think that if anybody did get that penalty, race control is going to take care of it. So the only real quote-unquote penalty you get is drop into the back. But for some of those drivers, like I said, Spencer Preet, I think it was the right call because you really needed the stage points.
Yeah, you really do, and you've got to be very careful. Stage points can mean a lot, especially for the guys on that kind of borderline. Everything adds up, so they have to be very careful.
The drivers who stay out, Preet did stay out, runs in second at the moment. He has a 2-point advantage over Brandon Chaburko in the final spot in the championship. Chaburko runs 20th right now at 1 lap down. I'm expecting the second half of this race to get interesting because there is a lot of times, you know, not to rip on the format or anything, we've loved to see, you know, the Superspeedway Cup Series playoff evolve over the last couple of years, but we've gone into these nights, these elimination evenings sometimes, the 20-point split between the next closest person, between the final spot in and the first spot out, and just nothing happens. Everybody runs top 20. Nobody really has a spectacular night. None of those guys have a terrible night, and nothing changes. Tonight's not one of those because I can only spitball some of the changes, but really it's a big blur in those top couple of spots. I would say really 5th position through 10th is wide open right now.
It really is, and we're going to see that one change, of course, as we come back to the flag this time by, but, well, it's... yeah. This race, who has any idea?
We will see if any sort of order will be returned, but I doubt that's going to happen based on the fact that 42 laps are complete and we have 33 laps to go from Talladega Superspeedway. Ray Rittenauer is on the front row looking for a walk-off win to get him into the round of 6. Green flag in the air.
Good run by Preet, but he's got no one coming with him. Behind there, the 87 is pushing hard on the front row. Good run. Thiel giving him a great shove there, and Junior going to get out front pretty early, so he's in a great spot. Don't forget, of course, Evan, the closer you are to the front, the less likely you are to get involved in any wrecks, typically.
Now it tends to be more times than not. We saw the big contact that happened right before the end of the stage break come from inside of the top 10, but the safest place tends to be the race leader, because if everybody's behind you, nobody should be able to wreck you unless they get to your bumper and move you out of the way. We've seen that happen a couple of times tonight as well. But again, Rittenauer is a big guy to keep an eye on up front. So is that 72 of Preet. Both of them can get in on points, but you know, if as they run right now, they're both probably very close to that cut line. But if either one of them wins, as opposed to both of them getting good finishes but not winning, they go right up to third best, and that drop kicks everybody else back down. So, you know, there's so much math involved in a fluid situation like this. I'm looking at the numbers. I can only give you, the best interpretation of what's happening that I can. I can guarantee you, though, the drivers in the car are not looking at the points right now and comparing that with their standings. They're relying on the spotter. They're relying on the crew chief to give them information if they want any at all. Some drivers don't want to hear it. They just want to go out there and race and see where the cars fall once the race is complete.
Yeah, absolutely, and they're going to have to play that one for now, but look at this. Junior already up to second place, going to take a move here on Rittenauer second, if he can. He's got Everly, Preet with him and there as well. Harrington also involved. We'll have to see how he can play this, because he's got no help on the outside coming.
The outside just dropped off, like off the side of a cliff. They were there, and now it's a top 5 breakaway well out in front. Anybody else? The 50 machine wants to mix that up, though. It's Hayden Ayerly to the outside of the racetrack. Thought maybe the 51 of Altman's was going to bite. That's a very bright 51 machine, I might add. Changing up the colors a little bit here tonight, and done a good job of getting back into this thing, because, Altman's plowed a car that bounced off of the wall right in front of him. He had no chance of avoiding him. Had to use his quick repairs, so good for him to be able to work his way back inside of the top 5.
Yeah, he'll have to, and as it stands, look at this one. Altman's getting himself up there into the 3rd spot. That's a big one for him. Now we've got a real powerhouse at the front. Rittenauer second, Jorgensen Jr., Jason Altman, Spencer Preet, Brandon Cruz on Vice, and Rod Flag's there as well, with 2 in between them of Ricky Wall. So we've got some big names up at the front, so this one might run pretty quick.
And again, even if you came down and topped off, even if you wanted to stay out and stretch it a little bit after topping off on that yellow about 8 laps before the end of the stage, you are not going to get to the end of this race without a trip back down pit lane. Now we're almost inside that window. I think now we actually are now inside of that window to be able to make it to the end, as there were 20 laps to go the last time by. Doesn't mean you're diving down pit road right away, but to keep in mind that you can find as hard as you want, you still have to pit before you can really go out with that.
Oh yeah, for sure, and at the moment, they gonna have to think about that one, but not as much as you might think right now. I think we're going to see a caution before we get to that point, and now bring someone like Chaburko back into play, who's only 1 lap down. In fact, let's bring a lot of guys back in.
The things continuing up towards the front of the field, and we continue to see that single file line about 1st position through 10th. As they run at the moment, and really just completely single file. So we like to always point out, Rachel, how we would say, well, if you're going based on the paper and if you're going on a fictional strategy world, this is, the move that you want to make. This is how you want to run the strategy. And then they go out there and race hard. I'm like, well, to be fair, when you're racing, you really don't care. You're having fun. Running single file right now, dare I say, trying to make it to that final pit stop.
I think they're going to try, and whether they make it or not is another matter. But I think it is a goal in everyone's head. They all know they really can make it there, so I think with things being so broken up in single file, I think we might see a green this time. I'll put money on that one.
Jorgensen leads, Altman second, Preet third. Those are the drivers who run 1, 2, and 3 at the moment. As they run right now, though, again, critically to point this out, that Mark Jorgensen Jr. came into tonight 14th out of 14 in the playoffs. He is currently in. As they run now, he is third in points because a win automatically punches you a ticket into the round of 6. That would drop Watford to 4th, Piscini down to 5th, and with Cozy having issues tonight and dropping down to 12th, Chaburko also having problems, and Rittenauer having a decent night in 4th. Rittenauer and I think Spencer Preet are right on the doorstep by maybe 2 or 3 spots from getting in. So this thing is still very tight.
Yeah, it really is, and very, very tight, but also very competitive, as this one's going to be exciting, I think, when it plays out. Look at this high move here with Flag, and Montevay is going to try and pick up Tiller. Oh, problems! Currently outside wall. That was, I believe, the machine of Reagan Jr. Caution Flag flyers.
Yeah, Reagan, he had just won the stage. We were just talking about how good of a night it was for the Art of Ruin 46, not in the playoffs, trying to play spoiler here, and he got off of the nose of the 7 machine of Rodney Watford. The 7 had a nice big run, and I think they were really just trying to work together. Reagan was coming up a little bit. I think the 7 was, well, I think the 46 was coming up to kind of center himself on Watford's bumper, and I think Watford was going down to do the same thing, and you get that little bit of a rub, especially in the tri-oval, which, although it doesn't count as a corner on the stat sheet, I think is the loosest part of this Talladega Superspeedway, and oftentimes the most treacherous. Reagan ends up at a wall. You saw that on the second look at the LSRTV replay, and that brings us under yellow inside of the fuel window, so everybody should be coming.
Oh, absolutely. This will be the final time I think they hope they have to come down, so this one should have some race-changing antics.
If everybody does come down, there is no more wait until you get to go elbows up, because if you pit now, you have enough fuel, I think, to be able to stretch yourself to at least maybe one more stop. You're trying to go 25 laps, but you have to keep in mind that you are also going to have trips to the pit lane, or rather just trips around the racetrack, under caution. Do you pit now? Do you top off? Well, we saw some drivers go for the top off strategy, and it worked to the end of the stage. You're not going to be able to go green to the end from this point, but maybe get her all the way full, might be able to do something. And fuel's obviously a premium. Mark Jorgensen Jr. only wants fuel, and he'll win the race off of pit road.
Yeah, it's a big advantage for him, and I think fuel only is a good call in that one. He's put himself in a position where he could lead as many laps as possible. Closer you are to the front, easier it is to stay there.
Little shuffling up the running order past the halfway point here tonight for the Talladega Superspeedway. We'll take another opportunity to step aside, and we'll keep it LSRTV non-stop so you don't miss a moment of the action. But Mark Jorgensen Jr. needed a win coming into tonight. He's 25 laps away from doing so. You're watching the Superspeedway Cup Series playoffs on LSRTV, your home for sim racing.
Hi, I'm Chris Page. I work here at iRacing. Been here 2 days before launch, actually, is when I got started. So we have developers working on front-end web development. We have back-end guys specializing there. We have DevOps that are dealing with networking, servers, a database team, so many different teams because there's lots of different work to do. The new user interface, which we call Scorpio internally, is a complete overhaul. So in the case of results, the way that it has historically worked is you would request results. The request would be sent to the server, which would then query the database, compile that, and send it back. What we're doing now is Whenever we get the results of a race, we'll compile those results and push them up as a static page cached so that when you need it, it's available for you. It doesn't need to be computed on the fly. It will be much faster and scale much better. Just beginning with reimagining the website. We took a step back and said, how do people use this? How do people want to use it? And our initial vision of leveraging the web and getting your stats there, finding out a schedule and joining, that was a good one. And we want to continue to support that as much as possible. We're also making a change so that you'll be able to just double click on the application and fire up and go racing that way. Jump from one race to the next without even leaving the application. The good news is this is a whole new infrastructure, so we'll be able to release it in parallel, and you'll be able to use the existing member site you're comfortable with, but still fire up the application and get the new experience. And that will really help us because as good of a job we've done, there's still things we can learn. And by running it in parallel, we'll be able to collect that data and make it an even better experience. We'll be able to learn by your input. So with the preview of the user interface, you'll be able to use the new feature Time Attack and be able to experience some of the existing functionality, but we still haven't done everything, and that will come over time. We're going to have tighter integration with the sim in the back end than we ever have before. So as an example, in Time Attack, whenever there's a new best lap time, we take that lap data and we push it up into the cloud. What then happens is when you're in Time Attack, you're launching a session, you can pick anyone's best lap time and race against it, whether that be a friend or the leader in your current competition. When you fire up the sim, it will pull down that data and you can race against that lap time. We're looking forward to getting this out to you because we've been working on it for a really long time, but we're super excited about where we're going because this is only the beginning.
Welcome back live to the Talladega Superspeedway. Mark Jorgensen Jr. is your race leader as we pace at lap number 53 of 75 on the night. Lights are still on top of the iRacing.com official pace car as we look to get this one back under green flag conditions. It's Jorgensen, Altman's Flag, Preet, and Monsivice with 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in a running order at the moment. We have already passed through the halfway point in the stage break in this race. If you weren't with us, it was Richard Reagan Jr. who took home the 10 bonus points. He was just involved in the most recent yellow, though, to take him out of this. Some other big things that we've been following tonight, 6 bonus points in favor of Spencer Preet on the evening, and him running 4th over Cheburko 19th means that they have unofficially swapped out for 6th and 7th in the championship, meaning Cheburko is outside of the cut line at the moment, and we're doing our best to let you know where all those playoff drivers are. They've got the green spoilers, the green windshield banners, and the green numbers up on the ticker, so we're trying to keep you posted on that because, yes, we talk about the spoilers, Rachel, and yes, if somebody wins, it's big, but the championship is the focus as of 2 weeks ago.
Certainly is, and the championship will always be the focus in this one. And once we get past the regular season, in fact, the last 2 races of the regular season onwards, we're in full championship mode. And these guys have to focus on that because the win is so fickle in this series.
It has been, and obviously, you know, in a situation where it can change literally lap by lap. I know it's an expression that can apply to every sort of racing, but especially at Superspeedway racing, it's not an uncommon exchange to go, you know, the 2.66 miles here at Talladega, gain 5 spots. That's not crazy. It's not crazy to lose that either. Well, yes, live points would suggest here's the picture. We still have, I think, if the lights go out on top of the pace car this time, and we go green next time by, With 21 laps still to go in this race, we are far from having reached conclusion. Coverage of tonight's Superspeedway Cup Series playoff race from the Talladega Superspeedway is brought to you, as always, by our friends at Joel Real Timing. JRT is the official timing software of LSRTV. Whether you spend your time on the sim behind the wheel, on top of the pit box, or from the spotter stand, JRT is your go-to software for iRacing timing and scoring analytics. You can get yourself the basic download today or the full pro version online by logging on to joel-real-timing.com. Lights have now gone out on top of the pace car, so the race start will be due up. 21 laps to go. Outside of the fuel window without yellows. If you do get yellows, you could save if you really want to. But right now we're outside of the fuel window. Doing it out though. Dwayne Cooper topping off on pit road. Mike Thiel topping off on pit road. Richard Reagan topping off. And Harry Tiller as well.
It's going to definitely make things a lot more interesting, and well, I can't wait to see this one happen. As a couple of those guys, yeah, they need to get themselves back on the lead lap, and I think we're definitely going to see another caution at this point. It's almost a guarantee, but how that plays out, it doesn't, I don't know. As a couple of these guys having some issues at the moment. Jorgensen Jr., he's having the race of his season so far.
Literally, and if there's any race that you got to kind of flip the switch. We talked a little bit earlier about how he hasn't really had the season that he wanted, was able to secure himself a spot in the playoffs to begin with win back at Daytona in the middle portion of the season. But other than that, it wasn't, the constant barrage of top 5s and top 10s like we expect to see out of the 88 camp. Really, nothing matters tonight. The 16th race on the season. You go 15 races and just trying to go top 15s, top 20s, none of that matters if you can perform in the playoffs, and that's what makes this kind of a format so exciting and follow. But we'll find out. Could this be the final time the pace car is going to dive down to the safety of pit road? 21 laps to go from Talladega. It also means there's 21 laps to go in the round of 14 on the playoffs. There's only 4 spots left into the championship 6, and they're all still very much up in the air. Jorgensen trying to secure one of them, going to bring us back to the green flag alongside the 51 Voltmans as they come through out of the tri-oval and line it up at the start-finish line as the green flag flies.
Yeah, good restart by the inside as usual, but with flag pushing Jorgensen Jr. with months of ice there, and Warren, not unexpected, the outside. You have to work a little harder. Less cars up there at the moment, didn't stay quite as tight as they could have done. Inside will have the advantage in lap 55 here. Running out of time very quickly. We have 20 laps to go.
51, not the best start. You obviously expect the drivers who lead the outside of the racetrack to have some struggles getting some speed up and out of the gate. The 51 machine now pulls back even. Spencer Preet, the 72 machine, having some issues there in 3. He's had ongoing issues all night, and he might be forced to drop out, and he is going to be forced to drop high and let cars go. That is great news for Brandon Chaburko.
Yeah, it really is, and that's exactly what he needs to have happen, but, well, we need to get a caution for that to happen, and that brings him and Tiller back into the mix, full on.
Chaburko's still running, I think, a lap down. He is. He's the first driver 1 lap down, but Spencer Preet still needs to hold a couple of spots in front of him. Ironically enough, it's Brandon Chaburko who gets to his back bumper, kind of letting him know, I'm here, and I can tell you that the points are getting tighter and tighter with every passing lap. Single file, though, top 3. It's going to be a big run for the 51 Voltmans. Vaughn's device wants to come up and take that speed away. The 51 wasn't very cooperative, but it works.
Yeah, absolutely, and we'll have to see if this one can stay a little cleaner, because they don't want to bring Chaburko back into a fighting for the win mix. That could really gum up things at the sharp end.
17 cars total on the lead lap. Drivers a lap down include Chaburko -1, Reagan down 1, and Harry Tiller down 1 as well. Somebody else who Tiller has had a great run this season. 14 points below the cut line, needs a good run, and I think kind of banking on the yellow here so he can get waved by and get back to the lead lap may be his one and only remaining hope. And Up front, Monsivice is using that lead position on the outside of the racetrack to pull now even with Rod Flag, who runs in third. Flag's having a great night, had a couple of pieces of contact that were questionable, but right now doing exactly what it needs to do. Comfortable spot, second car inside at the bottom of the racetrack right now. -10 into tonight, but there's a lot of points up for grabs in second.
Yeah, there really is, and Flag and Monsivice looking strong here. Monsivice already has a win, let's not forget, so that's a good one for him. As is the Merchant, of course, who's not here this week, which is probably the wise decision on his part, but Jorgensen Jr. looking strong still out front. Chaburko might want to try and race his lap back here as he's coming on the outside.
And in the middle of the pack, you still got guys moving up and down. Right now, right there in the 87 machine, the white car about 6 deep in line, just moved top to bottom. Looks like the outside, after having a lot of promise, no more than 2 minutes ago, making that charge up front, now starting to have the wheels fall out from underneath him again. And it's the 50 of Voltmans who's now dropped way back off of the 54, and that's basically to suck the 54 back. He's going to try to rely on some side draft. In the meantime, I'm surprised nobody went up in between him and the 51, although of course I suspect you'd rather just go up in front of the 54, watch Flag, and also if Warren can get clear, watch the 76 as well. If they want to go top side, not going to matter. Caution behind your race leaders. There's a couple of drivers. Ricky Wall is one of them, and Michael Cozy Jr. is the other.
Looking at how this one happened, Chaburko gets under the 78 and tips him. Not sure whether that was... well, I don't know how to read that one because Chaburko just goes to the corner of 78 and doesn't lift out, but happened quite a way back in the middle of nothing. So Chaburko, he actually got tipped pretty hard. So Chaburko might actually be out of this one by virtue of too much damage, and this being his backup car, won't be able to get it repaired.
We know Chaburko's aggressive, and when you go to the left of your quarter panel like that, it's not going to work, but especially coming off of the corner as that car unloads from being pressed down on the racetrack, it almost essentially starts to lift up off the track. It's just not a thing that works. And Jimmy Coleman, somebody who needed a good night, came in tonight 22 points out of a transfer position. He ends up spitting out. Michael Cozy Jr. came into tonight 5th and plus 14. And Cozy's wrecking out, I think, is the biggest thing here, because if his night is done, that takes him out of a transfer spot that he was in coming into tonight, which gets opens up a spot for Spencer Preet to walk right into.
Yeah, it really does. So Chaburko is taking him... Anyway, so talking about other things in the race, as we don't really want to go over this, as the 78 and the 12 had a disagreement on the racetrack, and then off the racetrack, I think both those cars will be going behind the wall, and we'll move on. Jorgensen Jr. out front here, lap 60, 15 laps to go, less than that when we get back to green. Things are looking good for him to take this win. It might be his only opportunity here, and with Flag, Warren, Altmans, Monsivice, Evans, Harrington, Rittenau, Wofford, your top 10 with Bassini. Things are looking really good for them.
Yeah, the contact on track was initiated by the 12, and the contact under yellow was initiated by the 78 machine. And, you know, for Jimmy Coleman, you could understand the frustration. He wasn't necessarily in a spot that was going to put him into the championship 6, as they ran, but was on the lead lap, and he felt like he got hit by Chaburko. It was unnecessary contact to be pushing. I think the thing that would make the 78 most upset is that Chaburko was a lap car, and the 78 was on the lead lap. And when you have anybody spinning you out, not fun, but especially when it's somebody who was a lap down, and Coleman got into him and did not get off of him, and you can understand the frustration, but you can't go around taking people out under yellow. So I'm sure that there will be some post-race repercussions for Jimmy Coleman, and that just kind of shows you some of the emotions that have been boiling over tonight.
Certainly does. There's always emotions boiling over, especially once you get to this stage of a championship, and this puts Tiller back on the lead lap, so he's going to be very happy with this.
Yeah, this, again, every time somebody has a problem, it opens up the door for somebody else, and every time there's a yellow, it opens up the door for somebody else. Harry Tiller, Richard Regan, Brandon Chaburko, all going to get wave arounds to get back to the lead lap.
Yeah, absolutely, and this will put them in a great spot to go forwards with this and put themselves in a far more contending spot for this race. But I gotta put my money on Jorgensen Jr. here. I hope this isn't the commentator's curse, Evan, but I really want to put my money on Mark. This has got to be the comeback story of the playoffs.
Well, if you know, I always talk about peaking too early. You know, you want to qualify up front. I don't think anyone's going to tell you, you know what, let's just qualify 30th. Let's just not go full throttle. No one's going to tell you that you want to start up front. But in reality, track position, while it matters, I'm not going to say it doesn't, it matters the least at this kind of a track than any other one. And, you know, it's very difficult to time, you know, your strategy. If you get up front with 30 laps to go, that's great, cool, lead 10 laps, and then you could finish 25th in the next 20 laps. You can fall all the way back. Jorgensen has been up front basically from a little bit before that midway point through to now. It's been about a 20-lap span. He needs to be able to stretch it as of this time by 14 more laps. My concern is he's been up front for too long, and he's got a target on his back, and it's basically just daring Rod Flag, who again, Rod Flag, if Rod Flag were to finish second, and Mark Jorgensen were to finish second, Rod Flag would have a better chance of getting in based on P2 points than Jorgensen would. It doesn't mean Rod Flag's going to say, hey man, you're further behind me in the points, I'll just give you the win. Unless Rod Flag,
he doesn't want him in the chase.
Yeah, well, unless you're confident that you're in, you are going to want to win this race. But on top of that, I think not having Mark Jorgensen Jr. in the Championship 6 is great news for the guys in the Championship 6. Not that we don't like the 88, but he is a good race car driver. And even though he's had a couple of off weeks this season, this guy has won 14 times, and he would probably be up there for the championship fight, and he's in it. So you do you never want to root against your buddies in this scene, but it'd be nice if one of the best drivers in the series isn't in it.
Oh, it would be interesting for sure. Just tell you a quick story though, Evan. I'll make this as quick as I can. I'm a bit like Darryl Waltrip when it comes to telling stories, but one of my favourite things, and you talk about track position, but I always like to qualify at the back or not qualify in a lot of these oval races, whether it's Superspeedway or not, because the way iRacing grids you and the way iRacing sorts out your pit boxes, especially because at all oval racing you're pitted based on qualifying. So the first pit box is for P1 and back. I like to be at the back because not only does it let you gauge out the field at the start of the race, but also halfway through when you've worked your way up the field, you're coming in and you're pitting around nobody else. Everybody else generally is speed based on qualifying, so you are typically pitting with no one in front or behind, cleaning out your pit box nice and easy, no stress, and you can often gain a couple of spots on pit road because of that, and it gets you track position later in the race. It's much more important you come onto pit road when you're at the end of the race near the front. You go straight in your box, in and out, nobody else around, you're off, and you can just weasel a few extra seconds out, and it makes a huge difference because you can focus more on getting those little bits that could be free time. So it's actually a valid strategy, honestly.
And we'll see if the next step in this is going to be a restart with maybe 13 laps to go, or if maybe a restart with 12 or 11, depending on what happens with the lights on top of that iRacing.com official pace car. The one thing that I can tell you definitively, and it's about the only thing I can tell you definitively, just based on how still up in the air this championship picture is that if you got fuel under this yellow and you filled the tank up, you're going to be able to go to lap number 175 without problem. I can also tell you now with certainty that the lights have gone out on top of the pace car. So 63 laps going to be complete. 12 laps going to be left to go. We're just inside of our time window still. 13 or so minutes left on that. So as long as we don't see, I think, 2 or 3 more yellows, this race will complete based on laps instead of the 100-minute or the 1 hour and 40-minute time restriction. So just an update on that, just to kind of let you know where we sit in that picture, but this race should be able to go for the last 12 laps.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last 12 laps are going to be very hectic, I can guess, as a lot of these guys are going to be desperate to get whatever they possibly can. And for some of these guys, it is their last chance, especially that target painted car, as you mentioned, on the front row, the 88 of Mark Jorgensen Jr. He has got the biggest bullseye on his back bumper, this side of a very big bullseye. I couldn't think of anything in time.
I think red is the color that...
red rag to a bull?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. You're trying to, entice a bull, and that's not really what Jorgensen wants to do. He's like, you know what, Rod, you're good in second, man. Let's just ride this thing out. I don't think that's going to be the mentality that the folks second through 17th, basically everybody on the lead lap, with the exception of Art Jorgensen Jr., is going to have. Close it in on the end of this one. And pace car going to go down, so the window wide open for a couple of yellows and a couple of restarts, but this could be it. Drivers just recently back on the lead lap. Brandon Chiburko, 17th on the lead lap. Harry Tiller, 15th, back on the lead lap. Those two drivers came into tonight. Chiburko came in +3, but is definitely on the outside looking in at the moment. Tiller was already -14 to begin with and really needs a hell of a charge from the back to the front if he's going to be able to make up that. But some of the playoff drivers have had problems tonight, so you can never say never as we go racing for the final 12 laps on the round of 14 in this, the Superspeedway Cup Series playoffs. Jorgensen on the inside, Rod Flag on the outside. Here we go with the green flag back in the air.
Good restart by both lanes there off the flag as, well, flag on the outside line. Managed to keep up there with Jorgensen very, very well. Monster Rice pushing hard. He'd love to mix up this one. So would Jason Altmans, both of whom, well, have nothing invested in this race other than how they could influence the playoffs.
I think that's really, you know, when we say spoiler, their intention is not to, quote, ruin someone's night. Now, you know, if you're a playoff driver and you need a win to go to the next round and a non-playoff driver passes you with a couple of laps, oh, 51 machine of Altman, sideways out of nowhere. That car hard into the outside wall, no caution. We are going to stay green. And just like that, Altman's is out of this in out of nowhere.
Yeah, I'm just going to take a quick look back on a quick replay here, see what happened, but oh, contact with Ramon Evans. Oh, he got him a little bit loose. He overcorrected and whipped to the right. That's what happened.
That car out of this is a one-car accident. No yellow, we stay green. Back to my point. If a non-playoff guy passes you up for the win, you might consider that them ruining your night. But I'd take that as, you know, you wreck somebody when you're not fighting for as much as they are. But so when we say spoiler, they're here to make a statement. And Altmans was one of those guys. Not going to finish this race, but he was somebody who was a series veteran who was not in the playoff 14, which was a huge disappointment for him, not being able to make the necessary starts for a win earlier in the year to apply and to count towards that automatic bid. He wants to make a statement. Everybody else that's not with those green numbers that we've been talking about, making a statement that next season, because these guys don't wait. They go race it a couple of weeks after the season finale, right back at it. So making a statement for the next year and really never getting out of your groove. So that's the difference between when you're fighting for a championship and when you're fighting for what we would call bragging rights in the sport. The inside of the racetrack, though, has a 3-car length advantage. 83 Ramon Evans wants to go topside. Here he goes in front of Rod Flag.
Yeah, nice move there by him, and that's going to make things a bit more interesting. Ramon Evans does want to get up and involved in this. He's getting a very good push there. Jorgensen tried to go and look up, wanted to think about maybe getting involved and getting away, but, well, Ramon Evans isn't in a playoff potential position right now, so this is just a I want to win the race, which you're never going to be able to stop these guys wanting to do, and hey, playoffs or not, they could still fight for the win.
And this is big because as he goes by top side, oh, he's not clear. Contacted around goes Ramon Evans. And another big mess in turn number 2. The caution flag is out. And Jorgensen is going to get a lot of damage, but there was no way he was lifting.
No, he was not. And he's got front-end damage now. As, well, Ramon Evans came down across the front of him there. He actually just dropped down in front, was not clear. And too slow. He might be okay. I think he's got to stay out and gamble, but this could be the end of the 88th attempt at a win here. Front-end damage will stop him being out front, so he might be able to stay behind in second place and make a dash for the line, but that damage is going to be like an absolute anchor on his car.
And then the 83 started to make that move to the inside. He was clear, but it was such a lackadaisy tiptoe down that he left the door open for Jorgensen, and that kind of goes back very similar to the incidents we saw earlier in this race with the Tendabishin Rod Flag. By the time Jorgensen gets to his bumper, the lane isn't really there. But if you're leaving 3/4 of a lane, you're kind of teasing that guy behind you to go for it. And Jorgensen needs to win this race. So I am not at all surprised that he didn't lift when a car came down across his nose. But you have to think, if that damage on the front and the back end of that car is going to prevent him from winning this race, then maybe you should have lifted.
Yeah, maybe you should. And that was one of the situations where, in hindsight, and depending on how this plays out for his season, I think it might actually have a big impact on that. I'm going to take a quick look at the points because he's 39 points back. That win was all he had. I think a win was all he absolutely needed a win. Although, look at this, what Champion's not going to score. As I quickly look at the points here, Brown isn't going to score. Coleman isn't going to score. Preet is going to score very low. Flag might score high. Tiller might score high. It's plausible, but I don't know because Cozy Jr.'s down. Jaburko's in a good spot. I think Mark Jorgensen Jr.'s day is done.
I think he gave up on it when he didn't take the stage points. He pitted at the stage break to get tires, to put himself in a better position for the run from lap 40 to 75. And maybe if he got some high stage points and you get all the guys in front of you, you're still talking about, 31, 32 points to make up, which is at the high end when you're talking about only 24 cars in it. But I think at that point, made the decision and committed to, hey, I got to win this race. Now, he still can. If there's any track, in which you could win with some damage, it's Talladega. And it's funny that the biggest track and what you would suspect to be the most aerodynamically sensitive track, based on the fact that it's all aerodynamics, why the draft exists to begin with, doesn't mean you can't do it. But I think Jorgensen's going to be in a tough spot because he's leading the outside line. And if he doesn't have somebody to suck up to in front of him, I think the guys behind him are going to get impatient because he is going to be slower than a perfectly clean car. He might not be 10 miles an hour off pace, but 2 miles an hour off pace is going to hurt you. And I don't think Monster Vice is going to sit around if the 88 is slow. Now, the only way we'll be able to tell is when we go back green. Sometimes the damage is not as good or worse, than it may appear to be. Jorgensen,
it was low speed. I think he might. It was fairly low speed contact. It could be more visual than we know, but I think if he stays behind, because it's on the left corner, I think if he stays behind the 10, if he can get in there until he gets out of turn 4 in the last lap, I think he has a real shot at slingshotting because it's only left front corner damage and it's not the wheel arches, it's just kind of the front end of the bumper. He might be okay.
And you don't have to clear anybody to win the race either. You just have to have those in front. And we've seen many of exciting finishes in this Superspeedway Cup Series in the past. So the car doesn't have to be good enough to clear anybody. You just have to be good enough to get in front of them for a split second.
And I think you might have enough slingshot power in there to do that. Engine's good. Radiator should be okay for a lap or two. So I think there's a possibility, but it's a slim one. It'll be heroic if he does.
Well. Yeah, there's damage as well on Passini's car. That's right rear damage. I think that was about it for drivers who picked up a piece of contact in all of that. As the lights on top of the pace car, we'll find out what the run to the end of this race is going to be like. Survey says pace car comes across the start-finish line. We've got at least 2 more times around and a little bit under 5 minutes until the green flag drops. So what we'll do is we'll take a quick opportunity to step aside one more time, and when we come back, we're going to be inside of 5 laps to go from Talladega. As they run now, Rod Flag is in the win, and you're in position as he looks to transfer to the Championship 6. You're watching LSRTV's continuing coverage of the Superspeedway Cup Series on iRacing Live. The race to the end from Talladega when we come back.
Racing, you wanted the best, you got them for abreast. Often imitated, never duplicated. The greatest show under the world of outlaws.
Back live from the Talladega Superspeedway with the lights out on top of the iRacing.com official pace car. Final restart due up tonight with 4 laps to go. As of this time by, you're going to notice at the top of your screen the clock. It has been brought up as we noted that these races do run, as they have all season long, on the 100-minute, otherwise known as the 1 hour and 40-minute time clock. And we are, I think, going to be about 1 lap shy of making this to the end when that clock strikes 0. When we do get the white flag, the sticker up at the top of your screen is going to go white, and that may be at 1 to go. That could be on the last lap. You do not know, but this is going to determine who fights for a championship. Coming into tonight, Seth the Merchant, Brandon Cruz Monsiváis already won this round. They are safely into the round of 6. That left the remaining 12 drivers vying for 4 spots. The points are still tight amongst Pacini and Cozy and Chipurko and Preet and Rittenauer, and especially Rod Flag. But Rod Flag is leading this race. Mark Jorgensen Jr. is second. If either of those drivers take the win, they are locked in. They go from below to above the cut line, and somebody who came into tonight thinking they'll fight for a championship is going to get booted out and is going to go home with 3 races left to go in the season. We'll find out how this thing shakes out one final time from Talladega as the pace car drops down and into the safety of the pit lane, and the field is going to be in the hands of Rod Flag. 3 minutes left to go on the clock. A damaged Mark Jorgensen Jr. up top. We will see if that 88 machine's got anything left in it. Here we come to the American Ethanol green flag of 4 laps to go, under 3 minutes.
Oh, it's going to be interesting, but he still seems to have a good run here on the outside. Junior actually holding on here. We'll see how it gets when they get it to pace, but oh, now he drops back. That's looking like a big problem there. A lot of concertinaing happening in the mid-pack of this front group. As we come through turns 2 now, a lot of movement happening, and some people are going to try and go for something here right close to the end, Evan.
Well, Jorgensen, he's not off by a lot, but it's about 2 miles an hour,
enough.
and you can see that it's holding the 54 up. Monsiváis is pushing, and this is just not going to do it, and Jorgensen can only advance with the trip to victory lane, and he's basically just massacred that outside lane of the racetrack. Here comes the double O to Wayne Cooper, followed up on the inside of the racetrack. Now goes topside. He wants to lead the outside, coming to 2 minutes left to go, but nobody goes topside with him either. Still single file inside. Flag 1, Pacini 2, and Reagan trying to play spoiler, your stage winner in 3rd.
It might help, actually. It might help Junior to go forwards, but it might not be enough. There's a car behind him. See, there you go. Monsiváis drops down, and they're going backwards still. Junior, I just don't think he has anything left. It's tragedy for Mark Jorgensen Jr. Rod Flag looking like he might take this one, and that would be huge.
He'll single file the top 5 now. Add Cheburko P4. How about the number 7 machine in line as well? Rodney Watford all of a sudden in P6. He's just a step behind Mike Thiel. These drivers who started in odd-numbered positions have gotten such a benefit to that issue on the outside of the racetrack where the 88 of Jorgensen slowed everybody down with the damage that he had on his car. He's not going to give up as he continues to ride around, but with 1 minute left on the clock, do we get back to the white flag, which is next time by?
It's going to be so close, but someone's going to have to make a move at some point, and it's going to be Reagan Jr. I think Cheburko thought about going and didn't in the end. Here comes the 7. 40 seconds left. It's going to be close. We'll finish this lap, though. We will get the next lap. Yeah, we'll do it. I think we'll do it.
White flag this time by as of the start-finish on. If they can get to that point, it's going to be green flag to the end no matter. Rod flag uncontested so far. Chris Piscini, he advances with a second-place finish. And Brandon Cheburko probably advances with a third. So who, if anybody, challenges?
Right now, Richard Reagan Jr. is going to try. And Rodney Watford, he doesn't need to try. He's already got a win, I believe, or is it on points as it stands? I think it's points. And look at that, he's been dropped. This could be Rod Flag's race. He's looking uncontested. The outside line has collapsed. This is it. Series organizer Rod Flag from 9th in the playoff standings. Looks like he might have a chance here as Cheburko looked for it. Watford said he might help. He decides against it out of turn number 4. Evan.
There's no inspiration to pass him. Piscini in on points as they run. Second position. Third, Cheburko's in on points as they run. And so is the 7 Watford, which means Rod Flag, the walk-off at Talladega, checkered flag. He wins and advances to the round of 6 in the playoffs. Miraculous result for the number 10 Chevrolet.
Incredible for the number 10 Pontiac Grand Prix in victory lane here at Talladega. Rod Flag will finally actually get to talk to him after this race.
And it all worked out. He was able to find himself, I think most importantly, in a position to transfer late. But on top of that, and as I said into turn 4, you saw Reagan wanted to play spoiler. We had the conversation about what that means if you're a non-playoff competitor and what really is in it for you to try to spoil somebody's night. But at the end of the day, when you came out of turn number 4, we've seen drivers go for wins in this series, make a move into turn 4, get wrecked or wreck themselves in the process, finish 24th. If any of those guys behind, especially if Piscini or Cheburko did that, they might not be in the championship 6. So Rod Flag put himself in a position to win, but he really got lucky in the fact that when it came down to it, the drivers behind him had zero reason to pass him.
Yeah, they did, and they all got themselves in a position where I think they're all comfortable now, and wow, I got a feel for Mark Jorgensen Jr. Came home in the end in 9th place. Tragedy for him. He could have had that chance, and just unfortunate there at the end for him. But Rod Flag, though, has got to be the happiest man in the entire league.
Did it, and again, he didn't need the win. Came into tonight 10 points out. The win will just make it that much easier. A win might have been able to do it on the points, but that automatic ticket means that he joins Seth the Merchant and Brandon Cruz Monsivice as the lock-ins to the round of 6, and we will wait for official word to come from the tower on who the next 3 will be. I would expect it to be a combination of course, Watford, Piscini, and Cheburko. Having the issues with Cozy, who fell to 14th position. He would have needed to beat Cheburko by 11 spots, and I believe they were separated by 11. So it may be down to a tiebreaker or a single-digit difference for what ends up being 6th and 7th in the championship, and what could end up giving out the final transfer spot. So we'll take this opportunity to step aside one final time. When we come back, we'll give you a look at your full race results. We'll talk with the top finishers, and we'll let you know the 6 drivers who will fight for the Season 15 Superspeedway Cup Series Championship. You're watching the Superspeedway Cup Series Playoffs at LSRTV, your home for sim racing, the post-race show, when we come back.
When I was 16 years old, I was working in a Goodyear tire store, and my boss actually built an old dirt car, street stock Monte Carlo. Went with them one night, fell in love with it. It was a hell of a race, hell of a party, and a big fight afterwards. I was like, this is it. This is it for me. It wasn't long after that, I was driving an old 78 Camaro out of the weeds at that guy's farm. We pulled that thing out and made a race car out of it, and away we went. You know, I think a driver has more to do with the equation going back and racing dirt, whether it's a modified, a late model. You can do more with the race car. You know, the harder you drive it, a lot of times, the better it goes. You can crawl up on that wheel and feel like you made the difference at the end of the night. Asphalt car, you can't overdrive them. Well, that was the first thing that I had to learn right off the bat is, oh my gosh, I've got to discipline myself, not overdrive this thing, and that's how you get the most out of it. Truth be told, communicating the right information to your crew and your crew chief so they can do their job and make their appropriate adjustments for you to go faster and do your job is probably 90% of the game in our world. I've always loved late models. You know, my dream was to be a late model driver driving for a living across the country like Daryl and Don do that drive for me. I mean, that was, truth be told, that was my dream, you know. I always wanted a semi. I always wanted a stacker trailer with 2 hot rods in it and let's go racing. Let's take off with your buddies and go race and chase that dream. Never in a million years did I think it would turn into a Cup Series, and I actually have an opportunity to own 2 dirt late model teams. When you think of iRacing, you don't think of a video game. It's not. It's way above and beyond any of that. You know, dirt racing changes so much. The track changes so much. Being able to capture that, to experience all those details that surround dirt racing and make dirt racing what it is what makes iRacing so cool, because they did nail all of that. I knew when they came to our shop and scanned cars and went to the detail of getting that car right, I knew that it was going to be over the top, because it blew my mind just the work that went into making sure the car itself was legit. This sport has been around a long time. The competition can't be replaced, and that's what brings people back to the racetrack week in and week out.
Back live from Lincoln, Alabama's Talladega Superspeedway, where the opening round of the Season 15 Superspeedway Cup Series playoffs have drawn to a close. Ratifying your race winner tonight will be one of the 6 drivers who will fight for that championship beginning, I believe, in 2 weeks' time, following an off week next Friday night. But we'll have an opportunity to chat with your top finisher and also release the information on who those top 6 will be in a moment. First, as always, those who welcome you back to LSRTV and iRacing Live with Evan Pisoko, Rachel Whiteford, and Cisco Scaramuza. We look topside at tonight's LSRTV full race results. He started in 11th position. It's the win and an automatic ticket to the round of 6. Rod Flag is your winner tonight. From Talladega, it marks the 4th time on his career that he has won in the Superspeedway Cup Series. Chris Bazzini comes home with a solid 2nd place tonight. Should be good on points. Same story, Brandon Chaburko, who comes home in 3rd. Mike Thiel is able to snag a P4 well behind the excitement for the race lead in this one, with Brandon Cruz-Monsivais already winning earlier, rounding out the top 5. Dan Harrington comes home in 6th position tonight. Harry Tiller rebounds for 7th, but I don't think that's going to be enough for him. Richard Rankin Jr. comes home at 8th position, with Hayden Irely in the number 9th position. Rather, that's Jorgensen 9, and then Irely to round out the top 10.
11th place tonight will be the driver of Ruinel, 2nd with Dwayne Cooper in 12th place. Rodney Warford, first car 1 lap down in 13th. Cozy Jr., Spencer Preet, Ramon Evans, Scott Warren, Chase Altmans, Jimmy Coleman in 19th. 20th was Ricky Watt. Last 4 who didn't finish the race: Justin Devine, Travis Brown, Gary Champion, and Victor Bartlett.
Look top to bottom at your full race results. We go trackside with the driver of the number 10 machine. Winner tonight from Talladega is Rod Flagg. Rod, congratulations not only on the win, but I have to say the timing is pretty good as well. You guys came into tonight at a negative in the championship standings, 9th overall. You knew that you had to get something done. Well, a win satisfies that. You guys are going to fight for a championship in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, we are. We are going to go for number 2. I am so happy right now. I can't even tell you just the way that race went down is, we were racing to that stage, the stage caution, and kind of felt like we got our nose chopped off by the 88, and really kind of killed our momentum. We really thought we were going to make up those 10 points right there, and then we got to you had a few cautions, and we were right there still in the top 5. So we made ourselves in a position to win, and we're running right behind Mark. Mark had some problems and end up being in P1 there on that last restart. And I had luckily had Passini behind me, and he gave me the push from the world, and I think he already knew he was in, so it made a point where I don't necessarily think he needed to win to make it happen, and just decide he'd much rather have me in the championship than anybody behind us. So I'm definitely going to take it, and definitely needed though. But it's great to get the Valvoline Pontiac in victory lane this season. I really wanted to get this Johnny Benson paint scheme into victory lane tonight, or at least some point this season, because it means a lot, especially on the anniversary almost of kind of his farewell in the Cup, at Homestead, kind of that kind of weekend that he did in 2003. It's pretty cool to have this paint scheme out here.
Tell us about the mentality you brought into this thing, because you mentioned a contact with Jorgensen. He's coming down, closing the hole, and you guys made a decision that you want to go for it and didn't lift. And then ironically enough, same thing happens to him later in the race. He's on the inside of the racetrack, someone's coming down, and he made the exact same decision you did, not lift, try to squeeze it in the hole. You both came into tonight in the negatives, but you guys didn't need a win to advance. He needed a win, and arguably would have been a little bit more desperate. Did you guys really just come into tonight looking to get a good finish, and just based on that, you ended up being in a position to win this race, or was the objective from the outright to go for the win?
Well, it comes down to we didn't give up at Daytona last week. We didn't give up. We had a great finish last week, and we put ourselves back up in the position that we were in striking distance, being 9th in points. And I don't think the 88 team did that last week. I think the 88 team decided that they were going to go all out tonight, and yeah, it's a strategy. It's pretty gutsy, and I don't think it worked out for them. But certainly, I think you have to be good in every race you can be. We didn't start out the playoffs very well in our first race, but we certainly had a great race at Daytona last week, and we obviously had a great race tonight. So it's just you have to you can't take anything for granted. You have to race every race like it's your last, and go out there and make sure that you're getting as much points as possible. And now it's going to be amount of getting amount of points as possible. Now that's just a matter of finishing better than my competitors, and I have a good idea. A couple of them, or most of them, that I think they are, but I have not had a chance to tally the points. So.
Well, something else, you guys talk about, the championship that you racked up back in Season 8. I don't know if it's necessarily the same kind of thing as, when you go from Winston to Sprint Nextel into Monster and the trophy changes, but that win was under the Superspeedway banner, back under the Superspeedway Cup name. I'm sure you want to get a championship regardless, but, to be able to come back after a couple of seasons and put yourself in this position, the way that this championship is going to play out is not like it has been in some years past, and what we're seeing this weekend on the real-world NASCAR side of things is, as it has been for the last couple of years, it's one race, and that's it. Similar style to the playoffs that we have over here that you guys put together with the elimination rounds, but the Championship 6 now don't fight at just one race. We do exactly what we saw in this round. It'll be 3 races to determine the champion. So how does that affect your game plan? And now with a win, 4th on your career headed into it, arguably you have all the momentum.
Well, Season 8 was an amazing night. When we look back at how that race went out, problem was Rodney Wofford. Rodney Wofford had that championship just won as far as season goes. He was running really well. Shane I think had 3 wins. He's actually would be the front runner in that season, but Rodney was always a tough threat, and we didn't get a win that season. We won that championship on 0 wins, and we ended up there was a late race wreck, and we ended up getting through it and ended up being the champion at the end. So a lot had to happen to get that season 8 championship, and we're real proud of it. But a lot's going to happen to get to this season 15 championship. I really think the competitors that we're going to have is bar none the best, and we're just going to have to continue to have the consistency that we've had towards the end of the season. I don't think we necessarily started the season very well, and we have to continue to get these top 5 finishes. Put yourself in a position that if something happens, and that's the whole thing, is you have to put yourself in a position, if something happens, you can jump on it and be in the right place at the right time. And that's what happened in season 8. And if we can, if we end up being here in the finale in Florida 400, and I'm talking to you again here, Evan, and it's just because of being in the right place at the right time, of course, I'd love to be called champion 2 times.
But arguably, that's exactly what happened tonight. You guys did not let that opportunity pass you up. A winner tonight from Talladega. You walk off the round, and you will have that opportunity to fight for your second career championship beginning in 2 weeks' time. And I know that you also have the administrative duties to get to, so we will let you take off. Rod, always appreciative of your time. Before we do, though, the sponsors and the shout-outs, it makes it happen.
I just want to thank, number one, LSRTV. They've been our best partner for season after season, and sounds like we're going to be bringing season 16 and 17 back to you guys. So really excited about that, and also want to thank this again, Valvoline, Pontiac, thank the drivers of Superspeedway Cup, thank the drivers of DXT. Those guys race their hearts out every Wednesdays and Sunday nights, trying to get up here and race with the best. And just want to acknowledge their hard efforts. I can't wait to see some of those drivers come up here and race in 2018.
It's Championship 6 driver and race winner tonight, Rod Flag, who takes home the checkers tonight. Rod, we appreciate it again. Congratulations on the win, and best of luck in 2 weeks' time. Hopefully we have an opportunity to do this again. That would mean that your championship attack is going very well, and we'll catch you when we get back to it in Daytona.
Thanks, Evan.
That is your race winner tonight, Rod Flag. Just on the edge of that one, Chris Piscini comes home in second. He didn't need a win, and he'll fight for the championship. Regardless of the P2, it was a very good round of 14 for him, and Rachel's trackside with the driver of the one.
Thank you, Evan. Yes, I am. Chris Piscini here. Came home second place today. You are secure into the round of 6, Chris. It's got to be a good feeling.
Yeah, that was a roller coaster kind of race, so I'm glad I kind of survived it at the end.
Certainly was, of course. You didn't make a move at the end. You knew you were safe in second place, was it?
Don't talk to me about playing devil's advocate. I hate it. I had the opportunity to take it because I know the 46 went up and somebody else went up to try to make a move, but nobody went. And I got lined up with Jaburko and Wofford, and they're telling me to go. But at that point, I didn't need a win. Rod needed a win. And if I left him, he was going to fall back to probably almost outside the top 5. So I stayed where I was. I had damage from the yellow before, so I was happy running second. But come the next round, I'm not going to be playing. I'm not going to be driving like that anymore.
No more Mr. Nice Guy once we head into the round of 6. Chris, who makes it happen on the one car?
Just a shout out to my dad. I know he watches every week. And my teammate Rodney, you guys up in the booth, and just want to congratulate Rod again on the win, and I'll see you guys next week.
We certainly will. Thank you very much for joining us. Chris Piscini coming home today in second place. Evan?
And he is one of the drivers who know that they're going to be in it. Again, the drivers locked in. DeMerchant, Monsivice, and Flag based on wins. Wofford, I believe, is well good. Piscini is good. And then it gets blurry for 5th and 6th, and you heard from Rod Flag, who does the tally, and he doesn't even know what the total is because they're going to have to go over it and check the numbers into tonight. So if you can ignore all bonus points, Michael Cozy came into tonight 14 points above the cut line. Jaburko came in 3 points above the cut line, but Rod Flag won. He was below both of them, so they slide down from being 5-6 to now 6-7. So that was, between the two, an 11-point difference for the final transfer spot. Brandon Chaburko was 11 points behind. Brandon Chaburko just beat Michael Cosi Jr. by 11 positions. So by definition, that's about as tight as it can get. So the best way to find out when we know the official top 6 for the championship is to keep with us on the social medias. That's Twitter at LSRTV and Facebook at facebook.com/LSRTV official. But Rachel, we are now through 16 races on the season, 3 to go. A rare off week next Friday night, but we'll be right back at it when December rolls around. December 1st, December 8th, and December the 15th are the 3 races of the round of 6.
We certainly will, and you know what? It's going to be a fantastic final 3 rounds. You will not want to miss a single one of them. Hopefully you'll all be able to join us.
This does not mean that our sim racing coverage is done for this week. We'll be with you tomorrow night, as always, with some Saturday night truck action with the United Sim Racing BNC Lawn and Landscaping Truck Series at 10 o'clock on the East Coast. But you can find a full look at our upcoming broadcast schedule online at www.livesimracing.com. But the best way, as I already noted, stay up to date with us and to find out what the playoff grid is going to look like coming at it tonight is keep it up with LSRTV on social media, Twitter at LSRTV, or by going to facebook.com/LSRTV official. Until next time, though, on behalf of the entire team at Live Sim Racing LLC, for Laura Lawson, DJ Lyon, and everybody else who makes it happen up at the booth here night in and night out, and of course, for your team here tonight. From myself, Evan Pasoko, Rachel Whiteford, and our producer, Cisco Scaramuza, I want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate Rod Flag, your winner tonight from Talladega, along with the rest of the drivers that advance to the round of 6. That final round and the championship now on the line, beginning in 2 weeks' time as we kick off the final round of the playoffs, as I noted, on the 1st of December for our final trip to Daytona Circa 07 at round number 17 on the season. That race and every race from this point on the Superspeedway Cup Series playoff can be found right here at LSR TV, your home for sim racing. Until next time, good night.